Shut up. Pip, pip, pip.
Pip, pip, pip. Okay, so once it comes online, I'm going to pause the chat.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to pause the video, not the chat, because I want to see the chat.
Okay.
We have one question from Twitter that we have to answer.
Okay.
A follower of ours named Cameron sent a question and specifically said he couldn't attend the stream. So.
Okay.
The question was definitely a question. Let me look it up so I can get it more specifically.
Huh.
Guy's name was Cameron. Yes, Cameron. At the Buttery Gamer is his name. He said, oof, excuse me. Was there any challenges to the first season, and are there things... I'll just keep it here, and then we can answer it that way. Hey, what's up, Exploding Dice?
Some butts happened.
They did.
Some butts.
Yeah, we're just doing some pre-roll right now, waiting for folks to trickle in. Hey, thanks for the host, Exploding Dice. That's kind of you. Look at that. Yeah, because we have a juicy 21 followers. Hoping that a small percentage of you make it out tonight. I'm actually legally contracted to only pronounce tonight that way. Tonight!
But you have to, after you've said it once, and then you have to re-say it the correct way.
Yeah. I also have to read, hey, what's up, Mitch? Nice to see you guys.
Friend.
How you doing?
Friend Mitch.
Friends time. No, but I am legally required to pronounce tonight as tonight.
Who put you in that contract, and why?
It was a very lengthy legal battle I'd not like to revisit right now. That's okay.
You brought it up, so...
I did bring it up.
I feel like you need to talk about it.
I did bring it up. Uh-oh, Exploding Dice, your message was deleted.
Oh.
Oh boy. Sorry, buddy. I'm not sure why I caught you. I don't know what you said.
Was it you saying butts?
Maybe, I don't know.
That would be a bummer.
It's more of a boob spot, I guess. It was a joke I made about robots and sexual organs. I'm going to say at 4:05 PST, we're going to get started with our intro. So you guys feel free to get comfortable, elbow each other for space, do whatever you got to do.
Listen to the really calming sounds of me hacking up a lung, which is going to be a lot of fun for everybody.
Yeah. I think we're both a little sick, so you guys are going to get to listen to some delicious sounds of the throat. Oh boy, Kate.
I'm sorry. If I get it all out now, maybe it won't happen again. That's how colds work, right? I'm going to keep drinking Dr. Pepper because that's the liquid for me.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Pepper, for sponsoring this live stream.
Yeah.
We would happily take your Dr. Pepper money. Happily. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We're testing this out kind of with these first few broadcasts to see if there is much of an audience for our inane prattle. But it sounds like there might be, because there's a whole 7 of you in the chat right now. Dr. Pepper is glorious medicine. Yeah. You're exactly right, Mitch.
I've always thought that. Always.
I've long thought that as well.
Dr. Pepper.
That's cool. Thanks for popping in, Exploding Dice. Appreciate it. Cool. We got 3 whole minutes left. Kate, let's talk about our respective days. How was your respective day?
It was fine. Woke up. So there's one. Got some coffee.
It was a good one.
Yep.
Gotta get that.
Talked to Mom.
How's Mom?
She's good. She had some fun stuff happen with Lee. That's my nephew yesterday. He's really into the word no right now.
Ooh.
And he loves saying, love you, just whenever. But doesn't know what it means. He uses the same as no. So I, grain of salt.
He's just throwing it around.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
How about you?
My day was not the best day. I'm sick, and so it necessitated me sleeping in a little bit, which was not pleasant. If only I had some delicious Dr. Pepper to cure all my woes. But alas, all I have is cream soda, which is delicious but very bad for you. Unlike Dr. Pepper, which is a glorious tincture.
There's 23 flavors in there. One of them's got to work,
Right, so. Yeah. It's a panacea for all ailments, I believe. Boy, Dr. Pepper, if I do not receive some Dr. Pepper as a result of this stream, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. No, but I spent most of the day getting stream ready and rolling around, being a little lazy. You guys are
like, rolling around.
literally rolling back and forth. You guys are pretty lucky that I'm wearing clothes and not disgusting right now, or any more disgusting than I already am. Because when I get sick, I get very just like, ugh, I'm an ooze. I just roll around my apartment, looking pretty gross. Mm-hmm. So this is about as presentable as I am allowed to be, legally speaking.
A lot of legalities happening in your life right now.
Yeah, my life is pretty litigious. That's true. That's very true. Please let us know in the chat if we are difficult to hear or anything else is going on. So we can definitely make some adjustments to sound and things like that. We have T-minus 1 minute before we're going to dive straight into this bad mother.
Mm-hmm. We are still
go ahead, Kate.
Stream hosting babies, so there could be some errors that we're still troubleshooting.
This is our first time. Please be gentle with us. But
thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, baby. I love you. I love you, sweetheart.
Love you.
What was I gonna say? I had something and then I forgot. But wait, it's 4:05. So we're officially gonna start. Welcome everyone to the first installment of XP Weekly. We are your hosts. We are Team XP. I'm Timothy, and my lovely co-host is
Kate.
It's Kate. And we are the creators of Experience Points, which is a 12-part D&D themed web series that most likely you've heard about, but if not, I'm going to throw a little love to Moobot, and he can explain to you what it's about. It is a 12-part D&D themed web series that's all about authenticity, so it takes all the fun of an actual play and chops it into 12 bite-sized pieces. Today on XP Weekly, we're going to stream the first 4 episodes of this show, and we're going to provide some creator commentary, just giving you some behind the scenes, a peek behind the curtain as to what went into this most auspicious. Wow, thank you. I did forget to include, Mitch, that it is a dope ass 12-part D&D themed web series. Absolutely. So Kate, do you want to maybe give a little intro about you and what you do and why you're here and why you're a part of this nonsense?
Sure. 2 or 3 years ago that we started talking about this.
Mm-hmm. It was 3 years. I thought yeah.
3 years ago we kind of started talking about, like you had mentioned, maybe doing this web series, and then I roped you further into it and made you. I sat on your head and was like, "Do this."
You were sort of the cattle prod that made me get into it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved the idea, and I've wanted to make some sort of XP or D&D themed something for a long time. So I was very excited at any kind of sneeze that this might happen, and then I forced it.
Yeah. You really have Kate to thank, because I had all these ideas that made no sense and were floating around in my dumb head, and she forced me to sit down and be like, explain it to me, that doesn't work. And we talked it all through. So she's the director on the show. So since it looks, all the reason it looks as beautiful as it does is all because of Kate's handiwork. A lot of her, as we'll talk about later, but a lot of the innovative cinematography is basically her master plan behind the show. I, on the other hand, I am Timothy J. Meyer, and I am the screenwriter and one of the 2 creators for the show. I wrote it, and I tried to make it seem as authentic to actual Dungeons & Dragons as it possibly could be, but I guess we're going to find out how it stands up to the test of time. That's pretty much it. We've been kind of running the whole show after that. We run the Twitter account, we run all the stuff. If you are interested in the show, you can definitely check us out on Twitter and on Patreon. Right now, we're funding for our 2nd season, trying to make another one. We're doing it on Patreon right now, and it's going super well. We have a lot of great support. But we're hoping that once we get this channel running properly, we can have a lot of cool rewards that will benefit viewers of this stream. So go check that out. I'll just hitting up Moobot all over the place right now.
Our stream will be changing.
Got a lot to say.
In March, once we kind of
yes.
finally organize everything. So we will be doing some actual plays starting in March. But until then, we have our
kind of currently crafting a live stream campaign that's going to be pretty fun. I'm excited about it. I think we've probably prattled enough, Kate. You want to get started with this episode?
Sure, yeah. Let's tuck in. Oh, that's the wrong
Dive right in.
Okay. Classic.
We go. Right. Let's do it. I have just now realized that I have prepared nothing for this episode. That I have nothing to say about any of these episodes. Have you prepared anything, Kate, to talk about?
Well, Team Hive Mind, It's an inside joke we don't need to get into, but I think it's funny every time. That was one of the last things that we shot, which Timothy especially thought would be a really cool bookend if that was the actual last thing we shot. But we had to shoot the like soda machine thing last for like
that's right.
reasons. So this is almost the last thing that we shot, which would have been like a really nice kind of.
Yeah, we shot this at the apartment complex of Kevin, who's one of the actors in the show, and a lot of the neighbors were not well pleased with us running around. That first shot of her opening the door and coming into the building was the only take I think we got because the neighbors were about to come run us out.
Yeah.
So it's
just
kind of
out of frame as like a family on a patio, just like looking at us,
screaming at us. Yeah. But I'm glad we did not get evicted or get Kevin evicted. That was always a good thing.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. So here we go. There's my unattractive mug. Not a whole lot's changed. I guess I lost the hair.
It's really weird to see you with hair now, because I'm used to you not having it.
Oh, yeah. Now you're used to the bald, right? Well, bald-ish, I suppose. There's our lovely baby boy, Cody. Cody plays Greg, who's one of our 4 players, and he is a true darling. Just a soft-faced, shushy boy that we all love.
He needed his coffee 3 times a day.
Uh-huh.
And he had a cold for most of filming, actually, so he was a really good sport about it.
Was a good sport. I mean, I think all of our actors were pretty great sports.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was kind of a challenging setup, which we can get into a little bit more later. So on a writing level, this is a tricky episode because I assume if you're watching this commentary, you've already seen this. There's no real reason to go into. I don't want to spoil it for you, but since they don't actually play so much in this episode, it's much more of them coming together and meeting and introducing the characters. It was kind of finding that balance of how do you explain who these people are, but also establish their previous relationships without overwhelming the audience with sort of inside jokes and things they want to understand. And I was worried about that a lot when I was initially writing it, but the more I leaned into the idea of Mac being an outsider, the more I was sort of okay with the audience feeling a little lost in this group and not quite understanding a lot of the jokes they make or a lot of the things they're referencing, because that's sort of the way the first season is structured, is that you're kind of Mac's, you're riding along on Mac's shoulder, like kind of watching all these things happen. She's sort of our POV character. That's kind of what made it tricky to write, but I think eventually kind of found its groove. Do you want to talk about what it was like to direct this particular episode visually? Is there anything different about this one from other episodes?
We wanted the gameplay, like at the table gameplay, to look very different from like during the breaks and the beginning and ending episode and stuff. We just wanted the feel to be very different, so we would opt for more of like a handheld camera or no split screen, obviously, for these type of things, just to have a definitive break between real world and gameplay, kind of like very lightly homage to Scott Pilgrim in that it's like there's some real world stuff, and then like when you get into the action sequences, it's like a game. But we didn't obviously do a lot of that, but you know. Oh, and that is a red box. That is not actually a soda machine. We were just at a red box.
Or you don't even care about me, or it's Valentine's Day, or whatever.
Yeah, Timothy, sure. I think your audio went out.
And this is like
I'm muted. Look at that. Well, what a saucy devil I am. No, yeah, that was a pickup that we shot much later.
Yeah.
We had a comment from, I feel so bad because I'm not quite sure I know how to pronounce this guy's name. Raymulad Girta? You've been a long-time fan. But his comment was the only unauthentic part about season 1 is that the real D&D sessions rarely, if ever, are that epic, and that is 100% true. That was one of the fun things about writing the show, is that you got to make the session the coolest possible session in the history of D&D. Like, it's sort of strongly implied that was like the best session of that campaign. But yeah, it's got everything. It's got the boss fight. It's got the puzzle. It's got the stealth section. Like, yeah, it's kind of a dream session for sure. So you definitely picked up on the wish fulfillment.
Yeah, and even in like an editing standpoint, like we could sort of slightly handpick kind of the underscoring that we wanted to do. Like we didn't spend a huge amount of time like underscoring it, but like there are certain things that's just like, oh, we can have this type of mood here and this type of mood there, which is something that Timothy does in his actual playing. Like he'll switch between playlists and stuff, but like we could really hone in on it.
You try, and that's the thing with music when you play a D&D, you try to have it be authentic into the moment, but it's hard to maintain both of them. So it was kind of a little bit of like perverse wish fulfillment that I got to like always have the music be exactly appropriate for what they're doing. But that's not so much on display in this episode. And right now we're meeting Perkins, who is played by Kevin Bolivar, another one of our darling actors who had to struggle through many lines. It was very difficult. Little Easter egg for D&D nerds, Perkins is obviously an homage. Thanks, Remu. Let's do that. Or Remu? Who knows? Does it rhyme with emu? We'll find out.
And I thought, what?
Perkins is an homage to one of my big D&D idols, and I think a lot of people's idols is Chris Perkins, the head of story at Wizards of the Coast. A lot of sort of what I describe as Perkensian D&D has kind of snuck into the way I do things. He talks about how you should structure your campaigns like a TV series, which I do a lot with the recaps and episode titles and things like that. A lot of his ideas on NPC design and encounter design have crept into mine. So I kind of wanted to put a little bit of a nod to the fact that Alan's style of D&D is very much a Perkensian style, if you will. If I sound like I'm pretty pretentious. Yeah, cool.
The pipe that Perkins is using is actually my pipe that I got because I wanted to feel like Gandalf. And the word on it is actually Dwarven for wander.
Oh, sure, yeah. In this context, it's,
Different.
Ramula, which I believe is awaken, I think is what we said it was in Old Darzovian or Ancient Darzovian.
Yeah.
Cool, we're
Which is
about
like
to meet
on
our
a
fourth...
post-it behind you, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of little Easter eggs. If you look on the wall behind Alan, there's tons of little things. There's even a couple of sort of spoilery type stuff up there if you really dig in. A lot of that's hard to see or impossible to see, but we kind of had fun dotting those up. And here's our fifth and final cast member. This is Nadine, as played by Heather Lore. A lot of the actors that we cast were sort of personal friends of ours already, people we had worked with previously. Heather was sort of the first cold audition that or sort of cold cast that we had, someone we had not known previously that we auditioned for. Longtime fans will know that originally the part of Nadine was played by Erika Ishii way back in the teaser, but then kind of her career sort of took off, and she got a little too busy to come help us with the rest of the show, so we needed to find a new Nadine. Do you want to talk about the process of casting Nadine a little bit?
Sure. We
Kate,
had her read... God, did we have her read the teaser script first and just kind of audition with that? Do you remember?
I remember also sending her a bit of, I think it's episode 4 when she like cartwheels up to go fight Casimir. That was the one I remember.
Right, yeah. We definitely did like, we picked like 3 or 4 people from an audition pool to like come in and read things, and she sent a video and we really liked that one, and then we had like less people come in and meet with the actual cast because that was it was important that everybody kind of get along.
We narrowed it down to 2, I think, and Heather was just the one that gelled with the group the most. She's such a supportive, like positive person that it was just kind of an instant like, yep, that's the one. There she is. This is definitely me.
Very happy with how that worked out.
Beautifully. We have a question from Remu in the chat. Remu? Who knows? Just how long did that wall and DM screen take to make? There's a ton of super detailed stuff. Thank you. It did take quite a while. It's kind of a joint effort between me and one of our production designers, a woman, very talented woman named Mary Zantop. She kind of did the arrangements to sort of make it look as aesthetically pleasing as possible, but all the maps and things you see up there are hand-drawn by yours truly. The maps didn't take quite as long. That screen was a big pain in my butt. It looks beautiful, and I'm glad that it translates so well, especially when we get those close-ups. Using the sort of poster board that I'm using, you got a really cool like depth of field on it, where it kind of looks like the images are sticking out a little bit. But it took probably 12 to 20 hours of work just to get it drawn and colored and designed and things like that. The map immediately behind Alan of the city, the Tizoch map, was another extremely long one. Most of the stuff on the back wall are in the teaser, but the custom screen was used specifically just for the show, and that one took a while. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love doing it. But yeah, I did not adequately prepare enough time for the workload of all those maps. Going forward, I'm gonna like start far in advance. Like I know we have more maps for next season, so let's get all this stuff out of the way. But people seem to really respond to them, which is cool. We really wanted that sort of hand-drawn thing is a big part of our aesthetic, so I'm glad it comes across. Cool. Trying to figure out where are we right now in this scene.
They just left the apple.
Is he actually? Oh, they've actually started. Yeah. So the little joke in the beginning there with the Gandalf, we're gonna find out that Zydromedes is the joke is that whenever I run, and this is intentionally kind of left mysterious to the audience, Mac feels a little bit excluded from it, but whenever I start a session in one of my games, I always start it at an exact point when the music swells that I start to play. And so a lot of times people are in the middle of a conversation, they might get interrupted by me going previously on Night Spear or previously on whatever. So in some of my groups, they've started a habit of starting a seemingly very important conversation right before they're about to get interrupted. That's why they usually get cut off there. So again, Matt kind of feels like she's an outsider in that moment. Mm-hmm. All right, and that is episode 1, folks. Woof, we whizzed right through that one. That was not a long one.
No.
Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're just tuning in, we are Experience Points. We're Team XP. I'm Timothy.
I'm Kate. Sorry, I'm the director.
Kate.
Hi, I'm here.
Director. I'm the screenwriter. And we're just blasting our way through the first 4 episodes of the first season of Experience Points, the web series that we made. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what that is, I'll throw a Moobot here in the chat real quick. Mm-hmm. And if you guys are just joining us, you may not know, but you probably know that we're currently fundraising on Patreon to create a second season. So we're going to put our shameless plug here right now. If you guys are liking what you're seeing and want to see more of it, the best way to do that is go and join our Patreon campaign. There's lots of yummy goodies that you can get your teeth, just sink your teeth into some delicious perks.
Get in there. It's right in there.
Just get right in there. Cool.
Mega the Bard had a question.
He did have a question. Let's get that one. You want to read it, Kate?
Sure. How many of the props, story, maps, etc. of the show game were made for the show and were recycled from previous campaigns?
That's a good question.
Half and half?
Yeah, maybe? I would say closer to 75-25. Okay. 75 of it I would say is probably original. 25 of it is recycled. Some of the maps on the background were pulled from a previous campaign of mine, but about half of those are drawn specifically for the show. Mm-hmm. The screen is a lot of the props. I guess that's a good point. A lot of the little props and things are stuff that I had used in a previous game. So the calculators, the sticky notes, the crit candy. A lot of those ideas are things that happen on my actual table. A lot of Alan's DMing style is just basically my DMing style. He's slightly more sort of verbose and perfectly composed than I am, right? Like he's a little more written. I tend to stumble and say and you guys. It's kind of like a lot more. But as far as actual props go, I would say about 75% of it is invented for the show. Like the world and the characters and the maps and stuff are all just from the show. I haven't actually played in Darzovia myself. Is that an accurate description, would you say, Kate?
I think so, yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else that we had. Like all the other props that we got were obviously for the show. Like, let's take a minute and talk about that Chinese food, honestly, because that was one of our worst Chinese prop ideas.
And then we'll roll into episode 2. Yeah.
God,
go ahead. You tell the Chinese food story.
So Chinese food, Chinese Delight is an actual place that Timothy used to live by, and that was like his number one horrible Chinese food restaurant that he would go to and loves. So he worked it into the script, and we play with a girl sometimes named Bree who would always like buy dinner, and she's not the only person that we've done this with, but like sometimes we'd have group dinners or she'd just bring in dinner for everybody playing, and so that's kind of what Nadine is doing there. And so we were like, well, we'll just get Chinese Delight because we can work it into the script. And then we had to deal with Chinese Delight for like the next 3 days and also keep leftovers in the fridge to put out because we shot the first part when she comes in, we shot that like last. Like a lot of episode 1 was some of the very last stuff that we shot. So you'll kind of notice like that we try and get rid of plates and food sort of as quickly as possible to just not have it. I had to like eat a bunch of Chinese Delight because I'm not like saying much in episode 2, so I had to eat so much of that and just like
and it's also just the same food basically sitting on that table in that extremely hot room for 12 hours a day, right? Like it just started to smell very badly of like old gross Chinese food. So we were pretty happy when we got to the point in the script when it was acceptable to throw the Chinese food out, and we had sort of a little Viking funeral for it. Yeah.
Which actually I think Kevin in his fridge, maybe like 6 months later, he still found like one box that was tucked away in the back, and he was like, "This is bad."
No, I didn't know that. That's horrible.
So anyway, Chinese Delight.
Note, yeah. Gross. On that note, let's roll into episode 2 when we get into the actual gameplay. Thanks everybody for sticking around.
And even heavier
here we go.
mist than usual has settled around the castle, lapping like
Yeah,
a
so
sweaty
the
sea
script
of
conceit behind this episode was
You
that
quote
once
the
again
fantasy
Mac is kind of the outsider here, and she gets a little glimpse into the sort
while
of
each other with wooden swords.
style of role play that the rest of the group partakes in. The episode is deliberately very talky and very heavy on politics and plot, and kind of meant to make you feel like you're coming into the middle of this very complex situation. How much of it the audience actually gleans, I was never really sure as I was writing it. Like, it's important to note that they're at war, it's important to note that they're going to be defeated in war, and it's important to note that they trust the Duchess, but they don't trust her advisors, about all you really need to know. All the rest of the flavor stuff, there's a couple little hints here and there about things that happen later, but the intention was honestly kind of to deluge the audience with names and weird voices, and to make you feel a little bit like, oh boy, I don't know if I can keep up with this. Like, just to have that same feeling that Mac does.
Oh yeah, why not?
That's part of the reason we released the first and second episodes at the same time, is that since there's so little gameplay in the first episode, we kind of wanted to give you a stronger taste of what it would be like in episode 2, what the actual show would look like. Yeah, cool. Do you want to talk a little bit about split screen, Kate?
Sure. So in the first couple of episodes, we were still trying to figure out how to do the split screen, how to film it. We were all sitting around a table, and we had 3 cameras, so we would like film a close up on one person and like a 2-shot, and then we would do that and like just like one side of the table and then another side of the table. But it took us a bit to figure out where our markings were on the floor for each camera. So often for these episodes, like we're a little closer on people than we ended up being, because we were still trying to figure out how to fit everybody in and how to make the most sense. But because we were doing like 2 episodes a day, which is like 30 pages, which is insane, and a lot of people they do 4 a day. So definitely.
Right, and a traditional production will do vastly less than we did per day. We had a couple of advantages there.
We did.
All dialogue, 4 characters around one table. It makes it easier to blast through stuff.
Right. So yeah, it took us a bit to kind of figure out where we were going to put all of those cameras, but then once we did, then it made things go a little bit faster. So.
Devastated he is when they're
What I like about it is I think it really captures the sort of sense of everyone interacting kind of at every moment, that a D&D session is usually very collaborative, and that even if someone doesn't say something, they're reacting, you're kind of always sensing what is happening and the mood around the table. If it was just all, one-shots and wides, you wouldn't get this sense of kind of the community of the game, of everyone reacting and bouncing off of different things and looks exchanged between people. I think that the split screen really helps you feel like it's an ensemble piece, that it's everyone is in this together at it.
Darzovia is at war. And not until the
one of the stylistic sort of languages of the show that I really like.
Greetings, Dukesmen. Once
cool,
again,
yeah, so we're still plugging through the thick exposition in this episode. I feel a little bad because one of my favorite things to do as a DM is to do really silly voices, and there just aren't a lot of NPCs in this particular session. Between Duchess and Casimir, I don't really get to flex a lot of like Casimir's kind of down here and sort of gravelly, and then Duchess is just this way. There's not a lot going on there.
You got to do
in
like cool
2, I'll have
snake
to write
people,
some
but
wackier voice. There's a little bit of snake people later, that's true, but I was a little remiss in the number. Like, most of the players get to do cooler voices than I do, right? You got Kevin's Zydromedes. My favorite is probably Greg's Rael, who's sort of Nolan-era Batman, like, we could be surrounded sort of voice is one of my favorites.
Come now.
I remember when he first like whipped that out in rehearsals. We're all just like,
come from the southern
just died laughing. Yeah, and I think he felt a little self-conscious. The poor guy was like, "Was it bad?" I'm like, "No, it's
great.
perfect." Like,
it's great, especially because of his character in general is kind of like the watcher that participates occasionally, but like is reserved. So the fact that his character is like really like
Are you deaf?
shady.
Shadowy. Exactly. And that, like, I like the idea that Greg spent a lot of time thinking, what would be a cool voice? Like, what's a cool guy sound like? And he picked this sort of Batman gravel. It's not exactly the same, but it has a similar tone. That's a good point. I want to maybe riff on that idea for a second. Each one of the characters is sort of inspired by one of the core player archetypes that you can find. A couple of the DMGs have talked about this. I've seen articles written about this as well. But they're kind of different personalities that come to the table when you play D&D. So Perkins is an actor. He's someone who's really interested in playing his character and seeing how his character interrelates with the story. Nadine is an instigator, someone who likes to take risks and enjoys the sort of consequence-free environment of D&D. Mac is a slayer, someone who enjoys kicking butt and taking names, and sort of as a power fantasy kind of situation. And Greg, as Kate alluded to earlier, is a watcher, someone who's more there to socially interact and is more likely to kind of hang in the background and be kind of a wallflower. But the big challenge with writing it was then to go on and say, how do you go from that to making them a three-dimensional people, right? And talking about their backstories and who they actually are and what brings them to the table and why would someone act that way at the table. What is their actual life like?
If the elves make
we only get like a tiny glimpse into some of their their histories, kind of intentionally, but the idea was to imply these broader lives outside of the gaming life that they participate in. Yeah. So you might see little flashes of that here and there. Matt Koval has a good video about it. I should check that out. Thanks, Mega the Bard.
Is that what the jars do?
Cool.
We're coming up to one of my favorite parts here, which is like our first flashback. I think my favorite one, no, that's also a favorite part, is in the first episode when we all look at Greg and he goes, "Get out of my life," or whatever he is. We prompt him to say what. Just such a small moment. But this next flashback is probably one of my favorites because it was like fun to film on all accounts, and I really like Cody's reactions to the check and everything that he does. I just think
what's going on? Oh yeah, that's right. It is a good little moment. Which is one of those fun, like a player with no training in a particular skill attempting to make a check and just hoping that the dice come out in their favor.
Yeah.
That's what Raymond got to say.
The entire city and marching them down the
The
one with all the bands.
Raymond was talking about that there's a split screen scene where people are talking over each other that's really cool. It's hard to follow all of it in one go, but it's pretty well suited for a meeting where you can just rewatch a part. I believe that's episode 7, right? Yeah, where they're talking about the riddle.
Yeah,
it's
do you want to talk about your Simulog that you kind of pioneered, trademark? Simulog trademark.
So there's a thing in the script, we do this a couple of times. I started calling it Simulog, where you have two different conversations going at once. Way back in the day when I was first writing the series, I recorded about an hour of one of my D&D sessions to just see what it sounded like, just to hear what the dialogue was like. And it was just pandemonium. Like, it was people constantly talking over each other, and me just being like, okay, so you guys are like walking, and if you look, you can sort of see, and I was like writing it just transcript, word for word. You can sort of see up there's like a kind of a tree, and it just nonsense. So I knew I wanted to streamline it, but I also wanted to keep some of that sort of repetitive talking over each other, like this is a party hanging out kind of vibe. So I started writing little snatches of conversation that would happen at the same time. I had a hell of a time formatting my word processor to do that, but we don't have to do that. And so it comes here and there in little bits. There's one, as Reimu pointed out, in episode 7, there's a long snatch where it's about 2 to 3 pages of discussing what do we do with the riddle and what's going on and how should we solve it, that kind of a thing. And that was sort of our longest. They were pretty challenging to edit, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Kate?
Yeah, well, partly because in the first 2 episodes that we didn't have our sound quite figured out, so we had a lot of sound overlapping. And sometimes it didn't always time out right. I have an idea of how we will do that better going forward, but it was just like a tricky logistic thing to figure out the timing of certain things. You had to get like really creative in editing.
But I do think it feels a little more authentic that way than having just every line follow one after another. A little season 2 spoiler, there's gonna be a lot of Simulog in season 2 as well. Even as I'm writing it now, I'm like, boy, look at all this Simulog. So if you enjoy that aspect of it, you can look forward to more of it in season 2. Cool. I can't actually hear the audio. Are we getting close to your favorite moment here, Kate, or did we pass it already?
We haven't passed it yet. We're
okay.
They just sensed the canopic jar and are looking at his jar.
Yes. We're talking about his sack.
Yes.
His wrinkly old ball sack. Yes.
Yeah.
Wrinkly old ball.
Gross. But yeah, so the funny thing with the canopic jar is if you guys, longtime fans of XP will know that the teaser scene, which does feature Erika Ishii, is actually from the session that predates this. It's the last session that features Trevor, who's sort of the player that left, and chronicles how the Duke's men recovered the canopic jars from the Tomb of Urda. You see like the last couple 15 minutes or so of that session during their big climactic escape. So it's kind of a little Easter egg, right? To see where they got that from, and there's a little bit of more history there. Yeah, thanks, Rainbow. That was kind of the intention, was to have the Simulog feel a little bit more like it was a natural game. That's that weird balance, right, where we wanted it to be streamlined and a little more digestible than an actual play, which sometimes can run super long. But we also didn't want it to feel very like deterministic and ironclad and like this is what happens. And he still needed to feel authentic while being kind of perfectly, streamlined and idealized in a way that no real session ever actually has been. Yeah, boy, it's so pretty. Sometimes I just look at the lighting, and I just get really happy about it. Because our cinematographer, Alan Brandt, who is just one of the best that I've ever worked with, and obviously Kate's direction too makes it. I really like the sort of dark, moody shadows and stuff. I think it adds a very dramatic lighting situation. Like I want all my here it is. I want all my sessions to look like this. Yes, of course. The classic.
Just the cut to your face is the best. I also like that flashback is at Christmas, so like this heavy shit that's happening is like Christmas time. Like, oh god.
Right, one of the most dramatic episodes of the campaign happens the week before Christmas or whatever.
Yeah, we also had to plot out our flashbacks too and make sure that they all made sense as far as like correlation.
Yeah, I had a little outline of how many episodes or how many sessions they'd had, and like at this point this would have happened. So we had to like carefully cover up maps on the back wall, things they wouldn't have yet been to, stuff like that. No one will notice, but it was very important for us.
Mistake?
So Megan the Bard has a question. Do you want to read that question, Kate?
Sure. It was released when D&D started getting cool again with Stranger Things and Critical Role and other things. Was that intentional or just very lucky? That was mainly very lucky.
Yeah, pretty lucky, I'd say.
Yeah.
I had the idea originally, like the rough idea of like I should write something about Dungeons and Dragons like 6 or 7 years ago, long before it was cool again.
Yeah.
But it just didn't materialize until I was out in Los Angeles with Kate. Yeah, we just got really lucky on the timing. Like, there's such a huge and supportive community around it, right? From Critical Role to Crit Juice to all kinds of things. Even just Ack Inc. and PAX and Penny Arcade and all these huge outlets for people to express this sort of love that for years and years and years was kind of the domain of the basement dweller, right? We're kind of coming up out of the basement now, which is really exciting. And that was honestly, I think, one of the big motivating factors behind the show was to try to say, listen, we're people too. We're not just
normies.
A lot of times when it gets depicted in mainstream culture, D&D is kind of something to poke fun at, right? You're a LARPer with a silly costume saying fireballs, you throw bags of birdseed at people. Like, we wanted to show these are real people who have real lives and can also simultaneously play D&D and care a lot about D&D without becoming pariahs or becoming glasses-pushing nerds. Yeah. Cool. We're handing over the comic jars now. They'll probably go fine, right? The Duchess can be trusted.
Oh, yeah.
The guard takes
We forgot
them,
about last time.
and they
already.
both leave, headed back down.
Super trustworthy. Cool. I'm getting roped in. Crap.
The Duchess
We had a question from Twitter we should answer real quick. We had one. Let me pull it up real quick. Kate, you should riff. You should riff while I pull up this question.
Oh, crap. That's a lot of
Get
press.
If you guys have any more questions in the chat, obviously throw them up. You have been pretty good at throwing them up so far.
I feel like I thought about something for episode 1 and now I can't remember it. So that does nobody any good because
It's gone.
It's gone.
Here's our question.
God.
If you don't. So Cameron at the Buttery at the Buttery Gamer asks, was there any challenges to the first season, and are there things you've learned producing a web series that have helped you? Oh, that's a great question.
Oh my god, that is an extensive question.
I feel like you've got some stuff to say there, Kate. I'm gonna let you handle that one.
Boy. Well, I don't think there were any like overall huge issues that happened in season 1. There's definitely things that we'd like to do better, but I think funding permitted it was just harder to do. Like I want a better sound system. Like we had a good one for what we had. Like Jonathan, our sound guy, was super great, and helpful, but we just didn't have a lot of resources available to us. So I think that would be a thing that I'd want to focus on. I'd want to definitely get help for Adam, because there were some days when he was just the only crew person, our cinematographer, so he didn't have like anybody. We got really lucky with our location, but I think also too that
17 actually. That's
could have turned into an over ask at any point, and I don't want to stress anybody out with that again. But
that's kind of the thing that needs to be understood about the way we shot the show, is that it was done a lot on sort of favors and prayers. Like, not only did we had a lot of support from our community and our Indiegogo that we ran last year, but even that, still the cost of filmmaking is so staggering compared to sort of like the product that you get. That there was a lot of the show was done by people just being willing to help out and not necessarily receiving compensation. We shot in Kevin's apartment just because he said that's okay with him and his roommates, and that was 12-ish days of us just in there all day long, right, blocking off the windows and acting like just saying nonsense stuff in their living room all day long.
His plans
so
died.
When you make sort of right, because they had no sun because we had to block off the windows. So this is the thing: is it's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made, and when you have a small budget like we do, even as much as people give, it sometimes can be hard to kind of make filmmaking ends meet, if you will. Oh, there we are. There's that. That's I think maybe one of my favorite episode ends. Is the Lady Celeste Reborn. Right, we've been hearing her chant it over and over again, and now we get to kind of finally see it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, great question, Cameron. Did you have more you wanted to say on that, Kate?
No, not really. I think we did learn a lot of things that we would want to do differently for next time, so like that helped. I think season 2 will be a lot more buttoned up. Technically, logistically, we've now done it, so I think it'll only help us going forward.
It helps. It does.
Learning we didn't have anything massive happen, which is all you can kind of ask for. So. Right.
I would say that's one of Kate's sort of superpowers, is that I have been on shoots that are a lot more chaotic and a lot less structured, and Kate has an incredible ability to run a very smooth shoot. She's very considerate of people's time and people's energy, and she's very efficient. So that's what's really nice about working with her, is that I'm not usually too worried about something just actually going wrong or someone forgetting to do something or whatever. Kate tends to be pretty on the ball.
Nice, and I mean, likewise, like, you're also very, you have a good temperament on set. So it kind of, in the times I'm freaking out, you're like, okay, buddy, what do we need?
Yeah,
which is really helpful too.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, so real quick, if you're just joining us, I think we have a couple new viewers. We are Kate and Timothy of Experience Points, and we are currently streaming our first 4 episodes and providing some exclusive creator commentary. We have a couple of questions in the chat we're going to get to in just a sec. There's some questions about DICE. I'm sure Kate would love to talk about DICE Day. But if you guys are unfamiliar, we are currently in the middle of fundraising for our second season on Patreon. So I will use Moobot to plug our stuff again.
Yes.
It's these streams are going to be free. These are not patron exclusive streams. You guys are welcome to come and check this out. But if you are a patron on Patreon, then that will really help us out, and you'll get a lot of cool rewards that will make the stream cooler and will make the show even better. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. But I think we're going to answer these questions and then roll right into episode 3. We're about halfway through at this point, folks, with our first 4. You want to take those questions, Kate?
Yeah, so on a scale from 1 to 10, how annoying was it to get all the dice rolls that the script called for? Well, we had a day, I think it was actually a year ago on Tuesday. It was Valentine's Day last year, right?
Oh, was it?
I think
Valentine's
so.
Day.
I think so, which made it even more special. Or it was thereabouts. I think it was Valentine's Day. Where it was the day after we had finished principal filming, and we had like a setup on the table and a list, like a huge printout list of which die were rolled by who, and like what numbers we needed to get, and then also like which 2 dice combinations we needed to get. And then it took us like 8 hours.
Advantage.
Yeah, advantage. And not even, I mean, like, we didn't even get all the advantages. Like, we were lucky enough to have Ben Stamas, our special effects guy. He helped us with some of those. But we still had to roll 2 dice together on screen.
Right. There are a couple of effectively CGI dice rolls in the show, right? We had him do a little bit of visual effects to clean. Because the advantage is just impossible. I now have learned for season 2 to be careful writing those in. Like, I got a 12 and a 19. That means that the dice have to show 12 and 19, right? Like, if I could just say, I rolled advantage, I got 22. Then they could say anything, really. Right?
Yeah. So that was it.
Ridiculous.
It was literally a full day where we had almost all the actors. Cody couldn't be there anymore. Like he had to. Our last day of filming was the last one we had with him. So that's why our schedule was sort of truncated. But everyone else was there, and for the most part, rolled all of their dice combinations. And it was this very small window that they had to get them in, and we had to move the sheet around so it looked like it appeared on different parts of the sheet at a certain amount of time. And Adam got yelled at so many times by us because we would roll the perfect number and then he'd say it wasn't in frame, and we were all so mad at him. It just took all day, and it was like our dice day.
Me in
and,
particular. There's a
yeah.
There's a couple shots of me in the behind the scenes where I'm just cussing him out, just unreasonably mad, because I've rolled it 9,000 times and it never quite works.
So
We had a similar question from Miramonte, who wanted to know, were the dice rolls scripted, or did you play according to the roll, or a balance of both? I can take that one, because
Yeah.
it is a script quiz.
spoiler.
Spoiler. It's kind of a balance of both, where most of the time I knew sort of what I needed from a dice roll. It was like, oh, well, in this scene, I know I need Sidromedes to fail this history check, so that way he doesn't learn the terrible secret, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of the times I would roll it until I got like an approximate number that I needed. All of the characters have statted up 5th edition character sheets, so they are played as legally as they can be. So they have the appropriate modifiers and all that stuff should be consistent across the show. But yeah, the dice rolls are definitely scripted in a certain sense. A lot of the attack rolls and stuff weren't, as far as how much damage people would deal or things like that. Thankfully, that's one of the advantages of having a show like this, is that since we know D&D so well, it's much easier for us. We don't have to fake anything. Like, I know how much damage a 5th level ranger will deal with his longbow. It's not like, I rolled some dice and sort of Stranger Things style. They're just like, oh, he dies. No, we can actually use real 5th edition D&D rules, and that's kind of one of the big draws, I think, of the show. One of the big conceits of the show is that it's actual Dungeons & Dragons. It's not a simplified version. It's not dumbed down. It's the rules as written. They may make a rules mistake here or there, but that doesn't necessarily mean it isn't authentic D&D. So they're scripted, but still with a strong core of actual rule behind them. I am just going to pop away for like 3 seconds. My nose is full of snot. If you did not join us at the beginning of the stream, please keep in mind that I'm extraordinarily sick. My nose is full of boogers. If you're interested in those boogers, please give $25 on Patreon, and I can have those mailed to you. In the meantime, Kate, you want to maybe get episode 3 started, and I can rejoin you in 3 seconds once I've blown my nose?
Sure.
I will be back momentarily stream once I have no boogers in my nose.
Can't wait.
Who's asking?
Lady
Boy.
Celeste Reborn, Knight Errant.
I'm just trying to think of fun things to say about this. I liked voicing Lady Celeste a bunch because she basically just got to scream everything because she's sort of a robot human. So that was kind of fun to just shout out stuff and like angrily look at people. I really liked also fighting with Sidromedes because I liked egging his character on. I think he's like the right character to do that with.
Lawful jackass, right?
I have
what
given you
else?
my name. Will you not give me yours? And pray tell me what an elf of Melendor is doing here, armed and unhindered.
Here he is.
Do you speak Elven?
Thank you, patient patrons and viewers. Sorry, guys. It was very gross. I was having a difficult time breathing, and that would have been bad for the future of the commentary if I had either expired or been unable to speak.
Yeah, I'm significantly less chatty than you are, so I think the commentary would have
sorry.
died out.
I did not mean to abandon you. All right, so here we are. We're doing episode 3. This is a lot of character introductions. So one of the things that sort of didn't happen in the second episode was a more detailed description of who the actual players are, who the characters are, and what their class and race and history and that kind of a thing. Again, that was, as I mentioned before, that was kind of intentional to sort of drop Mac in the middle of it and have her be a little lost and not sure what's going on. But here in this episode, we kind of get to put the brakes on a little bit and have a little fun meeting the sort of colorful cast of characters. I think it's probably one of my favorites just because you get to spend it's a lot more about the interaction than it is about the plot. Like, very little plot actually happens here. They just kind of discuss who they are and why they're there, and you get to learn not only about the characters, but kind of about the players as a result, like who would make these kinds of people, right? We get Perkins' big long speech coming up here in a little bit.
It's happening right now.
Oh, it's happy. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, which was fun
yeah.
for like flashback purposes,
Right.
just like trying to get logistically just the people what the other characters are doing while he's giving this speech that he's given so many times. That cloak is my cloak, so a lot of what Perkins is things I own.
So yeah, you can have fun looking at like this on episode 1. There's substantially fewer things on the back wall. Here in episode 19, they're playing at someone else's house. We wanted to intentionally jump around to different locations to kind of show the longevity of the campaign, and also the little inside joke here that they're tired of hearing this speech. The rest of the PCs have heard it so many times, right? That they're all looking at their phones, they're doing other things, they're playing with pets, like they don't care anymore
Poor
that he's
Kevin.
written this elaborate thing. I mean, I like the idea that for the first like 5 or 6 sessions, it was really cool and exciting, and then by session 11 or 12, it just okay, but we're done.
Any chance?
You want to
Yeah.
start?
Can you, and because he refuses to abbreviate it, I think is part of it, right? That like he won't just say, and then I do my speech. He literally has to recite the entire thing
Has to
every
do
time.
it with as much
Has to.
excitement and fervor every time.
As the first time. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Never, no dip in excitement. If anything, he probably got more excited the time that we don't really see it there because there was a new person to hear it, right? Like
Yeah.
now Matt can revel in his glory. Yeah, he was one of the most fun characters to write for sure because I think he's sort of the most out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wish fulfillment character, right? I think everyone on some level wants to be that dedicated and that devoted to their character, but I don't think any of us really go quite as extreme as Perkins does with the costume, the voice, and stuff. Yeah, there's some interesting costuming stuff I think you can talk about Perkins in particular if you want, or just the cast in general. Do you have any costuming notes? Because that was a lot of you that came
Yeah,
up with
we
it.
had certain like colors or attributes
There
for
a
each
story
person,
there?
just sort of like give clues to who they are in their personal life. Perkins was a lot of green. I have a whole chart and what it means that my brain has since expelled all of that information, but I think we're releasing that in some of our Patreon rewards at some point. But his color scheme is green, and most of his costumes have hoods because that was like part of like if you see in the episode 1 flashback of him doing his speech, he has that cloak, but like there's other parts where it just gets in the way and it's huge. So the idea that he like kind of bought this custom like cowled sweatshirt thing, which is like one of the few costume pieces we actually bought, and he wears that. Nadine has something that's more kind of like clubby. We were trying to go more professional with it, and it ended up being a little more clubby, but she has this massive colorful necklace because she's just sort of chaotic and loves rainbows and color and has to be really structured at work, but here can be like, more colorful. Mac is sort of a mix of like I guess rose with thorns, so she's like tough but feminine. And Greg's costume is specifically labeled the basic bitch costume because he's just like a dad, so he's got like a normal shirt and like khaki pants and stuff. I don't know. He's just sort
Right,
of,
yeah, he works at an office job. He's a regular guy.
yeah, he's just sort of calmer and has settled into his life. And Alan's color scheme, and he's got the green shirt underneath because kind of the theme of the campaign is sort of these green serpents and stuff. But the gray sweatshirt because he's supposed to be sort of neutral. So, look at him wearing it just now. And you'll notice that his
Now that we're all
his outfit changes probably the most because he's rolling up his sleeves or like gradually like unzipping the sweatshirt to like reveal the shirt sort of. So
Yeah, I think at the beginning, and there's probably like a lot of continuity errors you could find by looking specifically at where my zipper is in any given moment.
Yeah.
Heather was kind of the champion of
Yeah.
keeping track of my sweatshirt. She'd stop me and be like,
One of
your
them-
strings, because I would like throw them back and they get put in a weird spot
Yeah.
or wherever. She's always like correcting it
constantly a
every
thing.
time.
And then Trevor was like pink because he's supposed to be like the cool guy. And cool guys wear pink and are party people and outgoing and whatever. I don't know. I have a whole sheet, guys. I'll release it later. Calm
It's
down.
pretty cool. I guess, yeah, that's our sixth cast member, actually, would be Matt Pittner, who plays Trevor, sort of the absent player here. I don't think we see him in this episode. He pops up every once in a while.
Yeah.
He's in, see, the Screaming Mirror flashback. So I guess we do see him for a second, because they're about to...
It's a double flashback in this one, yeah.
Well, in that case, I think you should just come out and say it.
But yeah, so the color schemes are I think someone in one of the early teasers, someone had made a joke about, because I think the colors were a little more obvious, a little brighter in the original teaser. Someone had made our joke, which I really appreciated, that everyone was like specifically brightly color coordinated as if they were Power Rangers, which I loved a lot.
Came back from that a little bit.
Just a little, just dialed it down. I don't know, I still thought it was cool, but I
Yeah,
get it. I
I
understand.
don't mind it. I don't mind the reference at all. Like,
A little more subtlety is
Yeah.
probably warranted. Yeah, Reimu made a joke, of course, about how Zydromedes is totally not Gandalf. Which is, again, kind of speaking to Zai's sort of prickly nature, that he spends so much time and energy that if anyone tries to undermine all the work that he's done, that he just, he bristles. And I'm sure he's heard this 9 times already from the party. Like, okay, Gandalf, whatever. Like, yeah, there's that flashback. The character, I think, is distinct enough from Gandalf to work in the world, but obviously is treading on a lot of the same tropes. And that was very intentional. It's not like I wrote the character and I was like, oh, I guess he's kind of like Gandalf.
Crap.
No. Yeah, I really liked. So what's interesting about Fletch is originally when we wrote Nadine's character, I didn't really have a character voice so much in mind or what it would sound like. So I was writing Nadine with a lot of. So Fletch says something like this. So I think that's true of a lot of players who don't necessarily want to speak in character, but. When we got there on the day, it wasn't really working out the way I had thought, and I really liked the voice that Heather ended up bringing to the character. Is this vaguely sort of Captain Kirkian, like, listen,
Casanova,
I'll do this. Yeah, I really like her sort of swaggery Lothario voice. Works great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some trouble finding Lady Celeste as well. I think.
Yeah, I was talking about that when you were getting rid of your boogies, but how like eventually I just decided on like loudly screaming everything, and that was sort of just her robotic. Like,
one of the early ones was very nasal, and I remember being like, "Oh boy, Lady Celeste, revolver!" And I'm like, "Oh no,
yeah.
I don't know about
some weird self-discovery to figure out what Lady Celeste was gonna say."
Yeah, well, that was part of this for sure. Just figuring it out. I didn't have to like practice my voices because my voices were always on point. That's entirely true.
Hearing this, Lady Celeste maybe, puts her
Good.
hand on Rael's shoulder.
Oh yeah, Rael's little moment of confession.
I too know the price
Which
of
is cool because
Which I
no
think-
one else
one ill deed
Go ahead.
does not define.
So it's just a small moment
Yeah,
of like backstories coming out, and some people are so protective.
Backstory stuff for a while now.
Yeah, that's been a consistent theme in my game. I don't know if you in the chat guys have ever encountered this, but a lot of times in my D&D games, players are very reluctant to give away the sort of dark secrets. There are a few people I know in particular in games I've run that have held on to things almost the entirety of a campaign, kind of for no reason. Where it's like, that's cool, I guess, that you didn't tell anyone that, but well, why? So we wanted to make like a little allusion to that here, that Rael, since he's the little mysterious, gravelly voiced guy, hasn't really told the whole party his whole story. And that it takes Mackenzie's arrival to really like shake that out of him. Yeah, right. So we go through the motivations. We talk about why. There's a little seed planted here about Fletch, which we missed a little bit ago, and the dungeons and things like that. For those of you who have watched the whole show, I would hope most of you at this point.
Yeah.
You know where that's going to go. We didn't really want to spend too much time setting that kind of thing up, but there were a few little bits of important exposition that had to get dropped here or there, and that was one of them. We're about to roll into the actual, the shit, as they say.
You guys probably have a tough time keeping up even with all my armor.
Gross.
Girl, I'm on a mission.
About 3/4 of the way up, however, you bump
Let's
into
see.
another party.
Oh yeah,
Down.
Casimir.
Oh yeah,
What are
right.
the
Of course.
odds? I blow right past him.
This is one of those fun things where I feel like there's a sense that you know this is about to happen right before it happens, but the party still kind of reacts in a shocked way. Like, I like the sort of building tension of like, oh, they little, so this is weird, something's gonna, and then she hits him, and it's almost this release of like, what are you doing? I really like the way that the end of this episode slowly builds. The big reveal here. We'll talk about this a little bit more in episode 4, and especially in episode 5, but I found the combat actually to be really tricky as a DM to play, because we start getting into some pretty heavy math and getting the number right, and the order of events. I was pretty strict on trying to keep as verbatim as possible because I'm an egotist. And my words are precious and beautiful.
Maybe there's
Alright.
like this sudden light.
No, but I'm saying that I think
That was part of the
helps to resonate a
agreement
lot.
of like us making this too, is that
Yes.
we wanted to make something that, as a writer, your stuff wasn't really messed with, because I think that sometimes that can warp a little bit in the translation
Yeah.
between writing and filmmaking. So we wanted.
For those of you who aren't in the industry, what's one of the things that happens pretty frequently, and usually for good reason, that the script gets kind of tampered with along the way to help with production. So yeah, one of the things Kate sort of promised me early on was that if we would do this together, was that she would fight tooth and nail to retain verbatim, which is just not something that happens a lot if you're a writer. So that was a very attractive proposition.
Wait, you do that? You actually do that?
So yeah, the combats I found, especially as a dungeon master.
wait,
But again, that's the thing. I
know
sort
this
of
guy
made a
is
trap
we
for
told
myself.
you,
I thought
if
like,
you attack
we're really
him,
gonna
he's
make the
skip
actors,
everything that we've
you
got.
know, learn all the lines, and then I'm the one with like 65% of all the dialogue. I actually have a much worse time memorizing than they do. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, Megan the Bard wants to has a couple questions. Yeah, a few questions in here. Megan the Bard asks, "What made you choose 5e over Pathfinder or something else?" Well, we originally played 4th edition when Kate and I sort of started playing together. I know that's kind of a divisive edition, but it was one that I introduced a lot of my friends in, and I still enjoy, but obviously can feel the sort of pressures on it. It's a much more complex edition, so it didn't really work here. I've not played a lot of Pathfinder. I haven't played any Pathfinder. I've played a lot of 3.5. Which I know is sort of intellectually similar, but I like 5th edition for the simplicity of it. It's obviously a lot more modern. It's kind of the popular new edition right now. I feel like it would be easier. I think it does a really good job of boiling down the general conceits of D&D into some very easily understood things. You don't necessarily have to go too deep into the rules to say, I hit it with my sword, or I cast magic missile, or I do this. If you get into 4th edition, it gets pretty complex, and I think Pathfinder can get that way as well. I also just, again, was not super familiar with Pathfinder as I'd not really played it. Yeah, I agree with that, Mega the Bard. It's not perfect, but I find that it's a pretty fun system for us to play. Raymu had a comment about Paladin Vision. Divine Sense is so much both a blessing and a curse, as made evident by the scene. Yeah, I agree. I think I've run into it a few times in one of the games I'm running, where a player of mine just loves to use it on everything and everyone as many times as he can. Do I learn anything about that? I found the way it helps me the most is that very few things are either undead, fiendish, or celestial. Those are the only 3 things that it triggers. So depending on the kind of campaign you're running, it can really screw you. But if you run a game that doesn't really have those things, you tend to sort of scrape by okay. Anyway, that's Divine Sense for you in a nutshell. Cool, that's episode 3, folks.
I'd like to point out that in episode 3 is, I think, the only time Alan is called by name.
Oh,
right?
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets... He's referenced technically in the text messages at the end a couple times as Alan, or whatever. But yeah, he's not really referred to by name anywhere else as far as I know. If you find one, audience, let us know. But I don't think that there is one. Cool. Also, we have a few more viewers in the chat right now. If you're just joining us, we are Timothy and
Kate. I'm
Kate.
ahead of it on this time. Yeah.
You got it. We are the creators of Experience Points, which is a 12-part D&D, according to our friend Mitch, dope-ass web series about Dungeons & Dragons and the people who play it. Right now, you're watching the premiere episode of our show, XP Weekly, where we are streaming episodes from our previous show, our first season, and giving some creator commentary. We just finished the 3rd of 4 episodes. We're about to start the 4th one, but I want to give a little plug to our Patreon. We are currently fundraising money to make a 2nd season, which would be awesome. We have a lot of great support on there right now, but if you're enjoying these streams and have not joined our campaign yet, please consider giving it a look-see. I'll throw up a link in the chat. You guys can check it out. All these streams are going to be free for everyone. There's no backer limit behind them or anything like that. But if you do donate or you do join our campaign, there's a lot of cool rewards you'll get that pertain directly to the stream.
And there could be some incentives once we start doing our actual plays and stuff for backers only.
Right. We're doing, if you're liking the show as well, we're going to do another one next Sunday and a final one the Sunday after that. And then I think towards the beginning of March, we're going to launch our new live stream actual play D&D campaign starring the cast of the first season of XP. So that should be pretty fun. We haven't settled on exactly a concept or a title yet, but the things we're tossing around are pretty cool. I think it should be fun. Awesome. So if you guys have any questions, please throw them out in the chat. I think we're ready to start episode 4, which is our last episode for tonight. Are y'all ready for this?
Da-na-na.
Let's do it.
What do we get for initiative?
That's definitely the next line. Y'all ready for this? Da-na-na. Let's do it.
14. Anybody beat 14?
All right.
Let's see. We had little math counters show up. The reason why we keep including math, it's kind of escaping me. I know that we had like specific reasons.
He disagrees with this tactic.
And I can't
like
remember
the
what
dice
He's in
math?
favor of
Yes.
the knockdown, drag out
Well,
brawl
I guess it was just kind of a
right
part of the idea of keeping it authentic, right? By saying that there's real numbers. If you roll a 15, you could conceivably follow one character's stats the entire time and extrapolate. You could say, well, the last time Zydromedes rolled a history check, he added a +6, so that's what he gets to history, and then that's consistent across.
Right.
It was to kind of show that they're real characters. We're not just making up numbers when they roll stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there's some like inconsistencies too because of human error, which is interesting. If you watch, sometimes the math is a little bit off because people, I mean, like no one. That happens, and then sometimes the dice doesn't know, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of those too where a player will forget they have an ability or things like that, which is as much me as it is like the writer as it is the actual character. But that's one of the nice things is that. Especially once you get, they're not really at higher levels, but once you get into higher levels of D&D, the longer you've been playing a character, sometimes you tend to forget about other abilities you have. So there may be moments when it's like, oh, but wait, shouldn't Fletch do this, or shouldn't this thing happen? What's beautiful about the show is that because they're real people really playing, there's a chance they just forgot. So we're kind of vindicated in some of our mistakes. Miramonte had a great question for you, Kate.
Ooh, how many cameras were used? We, most of the time, had 3 cameras going. We had one wider that would go on, like we would do a 2-shot of like Perkins and Nadine, and then we'd have one on Perkins and one on Nadine. So 3 running at once. And we would pretty much just run through an entire episode, and then we would cut and then just do it again. And we had like 2 takes per angle setup, basically. So yes, lots of resetting. It was like tight schedule. We basically just one episode in the morning for like 5 hours, and then one in the afternoon for like 5 hours. It was a tight day, but it was.
No, it's just people gotta use the bathroom.
Yeah, we made it.
We did. Look, it exists. On a script level, this is kind of an interesting episode to make my little episodic spiel here. It sort of is a bit of a tease because it seems like we're about to jump into a combat, but then the alarm goes off, which is sort of a thing that I do in my games where I have every hour I basically force the players to take a 5-minute break. They cry and scream and plead with me not to, but I am a grim master and I will not be I will brook no excuse. No, that's not true. So basically, the idea was that we wanted to show some of the campaign structure, and we intentionally kind of wanted to block off the encounter here just to build a little bit more suspense. It also gives us a chance to see how the players interact when they're not playing a little more. Right now that they've played a little bit, now they have some sense of who Mac is. We get to bring the sort of core player conflict of the season, which I think is a pretty passive conflict, but there is still a little bit of tension between Perkins and Mac. Obviously, because Perkins and Trevor were pretty great friends, and Trevor moved away, which is maybe something we can also talk about. Trevor moved away, and Mac came in to fill that slot. And so not only is she acting in a way that's extremely un-Trevor, but she's just not as much fun to him as his old friend. So a lot of that stuff kind of is hinted at, but not necessarily fully explored. Meanwhile, we get to see a little dip into both Greg's life with his child and Nadine's life with her job. As sort of with the rest of the show, the only character we don't really get a good look at their internal life is Alan, and that's very much intentionally. I want to make a quick note about Trevor, if that's okay, Kate. So originally in the script, there was some dialogue that talked about what happened to Trevor, who's the sort of missing 5th player, and it talked about how he went off to grad school, and he somehow through editing those lines just ended up cut. Now the only line that specifically references the fate of Trevor is one line that Perkins has where he Alan says something like, and this is in episode 1, Alan says, "Trevor would never do you like that, man," to which Perkins responds, "May he rest in peace." So the implication seems to be that he died when he definitely did not die, but that's like a very reasonable thing to assume after watching the episode. If he did die, they're pretty flippant about it, which I think is kind of funny. But no, Trevor is alive and well, and I feel the need to write a very specific line in season 2 where he just looks at the camera and says, "My friend Trevor is still alive," just to canonically state that for sure. But yes, that is the mystery of Trevor. Trevor's good. He's at grad school in Ohio right now, and definitely not speed under some horrible party related actions. Kate, did you want to talk about shooting this scene and how visually it's a little different from? the split screen stuff?
Yeah, we tried a more roaming camera attempt to just sort of like go lazily from person to person, so it was less split screen, but still trying to get everybody in and also have overlapping dialogue when possible. It was a little tricky with the screen door because people couldn't actually leave from there because half of this was shot during the day, so we had to like black out the window. So any time that anyone goes to the balcony, they just had to like go to the door and then awkwardly stand there and wait until we could like get them out of frame because we couldn't open that door.
Probably not.
So
There's a little more balcony shenanigans that happens in episode 6. And since I was a part of that, I can personally attest to how awkward it is to weirdly stand like 2 or 3 inches off camera. Like
Just barely.
Cody and I just pressed, dick to butt right here.
yeah.
Gross. We had a question from somebody in the chat. Differation wants to know. You mentioned season 2. When is it happening? Excellent question. We are hoping to shoot it at the beginning of 2018, and then release sometime, I think, in the summer 2018 would be the ideal, kind of what we did here, but sort of in 2016. Right now, we're currently fundraising on Patreon to make that happen. So you can go check out our Patreon if you would like to, and see if you can help us out, because the sooner we get those funds raised, the sooner we can get underway on production. But yeah, we sort of announced last week, I think. So it's still kind of a new development. We're pretty excited about it.
Yes, we've definitely started work on it, so it will happen at some point. It's just how quickly that'll happen kind of depends on when we meet our goals and how much we can save and stuff like that too. There's just some production costs. We just there are some things we just want to be better this time, and knowing what we know, we think we can make that happen. So
Yeah, that's right. You guys
anything?
Absolutely. So join us there on the Patreon, and you can check out all the things you can do to help us out. We really appreciate it.
You think?
Cool. Yeah, we're about to jump back into combat here. A little bit more Simulog going on. We get a little glimpse into Mac's personal history, that she moved from New York and doesn't really know anyone in Los Angeles, and is kind of getting settled still, talking about the experience of moving, while the rest of the players discuss the developments with Casimir.
they are not happy that Mac started something.
No.
It's just fun because
They are
I think
not.
as those characters, they wouldn't necessarily consider like, oh, a new player. They would do something different because they don't have any history, which is exactly what Mac is thinking. So I think that's fun.
Right. I completely agree. All right, and we are back in.
Next on the initiative
Yeah, so mechanically speaking, we don't call them by name, but most of the creatures that Duchess Nightspear, spoiler, that they sort of encounter in this adventure are basically Yuan-Ti. So Casimir is a Yuan-Ti pureblood, I believe, where he basically looks like a human, but has a few sort of snake-like abilities. The poison spit and the suggestion spell are two of the things he can do. At the end of episode 5, we're going to meet a Yuan-Ti called Malazan. I forget the names, but there's Yuan-Ti Abomination comes in at the end of episode 5, which is the big snake monster. We'll get to that when we get there. But I think that technically Yuan-Ti are trademarked by Wizards of the Coast, at least that word is. So we specifically did not give them a name. They're just sort of vague snake monsters to avoid litigious situations.
Quickly going back, there was a flashback to our teaser episode that we had to add in there because, again, originally Erika Ishii was Nadine, so then when we were casted Heather, we had to just refilm that scene quickly.
Shoot it.
Where she's
The original
wearing
idea
the actual
was,
costume, but...
Yeah, right. The idea was to just originally show a clip from the teaser, right? But it didn't really make sense. I think we did briefly debate the idea of still using that teaser and just having it inexplicably be Erika and not explain it. But I'm
like
glad we
maybe
decided not to.
Nadine, the other Nadine couldn't be. Yeah, it wouldn't have made any sense. We just had to like awkwardly reshoot
Completely.
that one
Which is fine.
section.
But I thought it was sort of funny. Yeah.
This confuses the
Ridiculous.
Viceroy. He just sort of sidesteps.
Yeah, so this scene was the one we used to audition Nadine, I'm pretty sure, right? Was her cartwheeling up there to go fight Casimir,
A whopping 4.
16.
which Heather read beautifully.
Yeah.
Yes, similar but legally distinct from the wizards. The wizards that live on the coast, in their property. Exactly. I will officially stop talking about it now.
What up, Kevbot?
Good.
Hey, Kevbot RL. Everybody say hi to Kevin. He is the illustrious Perkins. Keep
Hi,
the check.
Kevin.
Right here at the butt end of our stream, a celebrity guest cameo in the chat.
Billowy sleeves snapping out.
Yeah, here we go. Big billowy sleeves snapping out.
The rest.
That's one of my favorite
All right.
endings. I think it's the most.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. Yeah, that's a good lead into the next episode. Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, that concludes episode 4, which was the last episode we were going to stream today. Thanks for coming and tuning in with us, everybody. Cool. We'll probably riff for a minute or two here. If you guys have any more questions or anything. So the plan is to continue streaming throughout the month on Sundays from 4 to 5:30-ish as we continue to make our way through the episodes, depending kind of on how long that'll take. Next week, we're going to do episodes 5 through, what would that be? 8? 8, yeah, 5 through 8. Which is, so there's some good chunky episodes in there. Those are some of my faves. For sure. That'll be a good one if you guys want to tune in next week. Answer your questions, do more stuff like that. Kate, which of those 4 episodes is your favorite episode?
I really
The
like.
ones we just streamed today.
Oh, of these ones?
The ones we just streamed today.
Okay, never mind.
Well, then I
I really like the 3rd. I think I really like episode 3.
Yeah, I agree. 3 is definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
What do you guys in the chat think? Of the 4 episodes you just watched, which one's your favorite? Oh, we should run a poll.
Thanks, Kevin.
We should do that next time. Yeah, that's a great plan. Kevin, get your nepotism out of here. That's disgusting.
Timothy's also very
trying to-
pretty. Everybody. It's fine.
I'm not that.
kidding.
Not
All
today. No, I'm pretty gross.
Because of the boogers. Got it.
A lot of boogers. So yeah, I would probably say 3 too. I think it's the cleanest. I think it's the one with the most character development, and it's just kind of the most fun, I would say. You know what I mean? Of those, I like 2 as well, but for dumb world building reasons. I just like to talk about fantasy stuff. There's a lot of fantasy stuff in that episode, but I understand that's kind of a selfish reason I like that. Yeah, cool. Sweet. So if you guys have any questions or anything for us, now's the time. Otherwise, I think we're probably going to conclude pretty soon here. We'll be back next week. Check us out on Patreon if you have not already done that, which I'm sure by now all of you guys definitely have. And you're like, yes, okay, we get it, Patreon, lala.
Jeez.
We got to make that season 2, baby. We got to make it.
Send that link around. Give it to all your friends. Tell your grandma.
Absolutely. If you don't know who we are, here we are. I made this move about as well. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Here is our social. Thanks, Differation.
Woo.
We appreciate all you guys coming out. We weren't really sure how many people we were going to get. We got a good sizable number of people in here. And that made me feel like it was worth prattling on. Hey, what's your question, Raymu?
We do have plans on streams. We're going to start doing an actual play campaign starting mid-March with the original cast from XP and occasionally some guests. But yeah.
Right. That will be starting early March. We have a cool idea for the campaign. We have to hammer out some of the details, but you can expect an announcement about that coming in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so once the commentaries are done, then we will roll into that, and that should be pretty fun. There's some of the Patreon rewards are specifically related to that as well, so you guys can check those out. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks, everybody. It is going to be awesome. Cool. Kate, that's it. The last chance. Anything else you want to say? Any dire confessions you need to make right now? No, Kate's good. We're all good.
Oh, you were talking to me. Sorry, I was like looking at chat, being like, "Does anybody?" Me? Do I have any dire confessions? No, not currently. Not about the stream.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, thanks for coming out, guys. We appreciate you putting up with our sort of amateurish first attempt, but I'm excited for future streams as well. See you guys on Twitter.
Cool.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.